And we are live. Okay, so we're going to be going over the SeleneAlgo today, some of the new stuff that was in the most recent update. If you guys have any questions, bring them up in the YouTube live chat or here in Discord in the live chat on Trading Collective server. Give this a refresh real quick. Make sure we're all up to par. All right, we're all set. Okay, so first and foremost, I'm gonna remove everything that we have on the screen, and we're gonna come to the conclusion of how to get it to look exactly like this. So volume profile, we're not going over that. SeleneAlgo will X out. We'll X out of the USR as well, and we'll X out of the ADX. So not only am I gonna go over setting up Selene, but I'm also gonna show you how I have it set up. So you guys already should know if you have Selene. In order to add it, you go to invite only scripts, and then you'll see it right there, SeleneAlgo. So we'll click on SeleneAlgo, and we'll also click on ADX. Give ADX a moment to load. It'll pop up here at the bottom, and we'll wait just a moment for that. Okay, so right when you pulled up, please go to end of chart. So you'll double click on this, or you can go into the settings wheel right here, check our disclaimers. Now the way this comes right out of the box is it comes with position optimization long, trading style is trend finder, trend direction detection, which is one of the new additions on high, signal sensitivity is balanced, and default length is 14. Now there's a lot of other sections within Selene, visualization trend. We're not going to change too much of that. I'll go into a little bit. And then risk mitigation, this is completely subjective on how you guys want to display it. I just straight up disable it. Take early profit as well in the risk mitigation tab. For whale hunter, we can have 4 different whale hunters. Basically, whenever a large move is happening within a security based upon volume and price action direction, we are identifying sequentially what type of whale they are. So the bigger the whale, beluga, orca, humpback, and blue whale being the biggest, we'll be able to display that for you. So we can select beluga plus, which means anything beluga whale size or bigger, basically the smallest whale, and above we'll be able to see. Now on our lower time frames, we're not going to be seeing many whale signals, hardly any, depending on what companies you're looking at, but it's something we'll see on higher time frames. Within alerts as well, you also have the ability to have Selene send you alerts on TradingView, through TradingView, for long, short, take profit, all of these, stop loss as well. All of these, you can have it throw alerts, which can ding your phone, email. So this is Trend Finder. This is how it looks right out of the box. Pretty basic. We're also seeing here our dashboard. This is our more simple dashboard. And yeah, right out of the box, Trend Finder. I use it on extended hours, regular trading hours. It also works very well. Works very well. You can also switch. We're on regular candles. You can switch to Heiken Ashi, or as I call it, Heineken Sushi. And Selene will automatically detect when we are getting those signals and when we're changing candles. So you're not having to worry about anything in the settings panel if you switch from Heiken Ashi to regular candles. When you switch to Heiken Ashi, you will see non-standard chart detected because we're not on standard candles. Also, when you have extended hours off, you will see Trend Finder works best with extended hours on. So we'll put extended hours back on with regular candles, and then we'll get into some of my favorite settings. But before then, we're going to pull up our ADX, and we're going to look at that. So ADX, as far as what's in it, we have 3 different levels, actually 4 different levels for the ADX. So we have 3 different levels for zero lagging. My favorite is going to be level 2. And then we also have range-bound thresholds, range-bound area. This is a little more advanced stuff if you guys know. Awesome if you don't. That's all right. We have a little bit of info right there for you. MACD, everybody should be familiar with the MACD. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically an additional momentum insight indicator. It stacks on top of ADX. For my ADX settings, I show the confirmation flags, which is going to show me whenever our MACD is crossing bullish or bearish. You can also map the ADX with MACD, whether it's with the crossover or crossover with a weighted line. I just leave it on basic default. That's more advanced stuff, and if you are wanting that feature, it's there. If not, like me, I don't use it. So directional index as well, we have within here. You can either show or hide the directional index. If we hide it, that section at the bottom is going to go away. If we show it, it'll pop up, and this is going to give us a little more insight as far as direction, whether we're bullish or bearish, depending on certain crosses, and that crossover can be used as a signal in addition to MACD confirmation. Those can be two different confirmation signals that you use within just the ADX. We also have the weighted price action, which looks like this. If we throw it on, I just hide it for the most part. And that's going to be basically how I set my ADX up. So the ADX, what does it do? The ADX is our momentum side indicator. It works hand in hand with Selene. So it's going to show us on a sliding scale from -40, which it's not going to go that low, or in most cases, all the way up to 80. It can go over 80. This is, if you want to use it as a comparison, if you've never used the ADX before, think about RSI, how it has its range from 30 to 70, and ADX has a set range. However, similar to RSI, we can go below and we can go above. Same thing for ADX. ADX, however, is typically non-directional. So ADX can be up here, like you're seeing. However, the price is going down. ADX just focuses on momentum, whether momentum is swinging down or up. It's going to show us visually what's happening. So for me, what I look for with ADX, I look for the histogram or this background of the ADX to be either red or green. So you can see a red section here, green section here, paired with a flag. So that's going to be two different confirmations for me, as well as our not our ADX, our directional index crossing. So that's three signals right in here. I also look for ADX to be ticking up over 25 or 30. So right there we have our directional index crossing. We have our MACD turning bullish or bearish. We have the background, which is going to be more or less our sentiment on the actual price and how it's moving, bullish or bearish. Bullish is green, bearish is red. And then we also have our ADX crossing over with this zero line here, which is actually at about 15. So anything over about 25, we start to see momentum start to pick up significantly. Anything between 25 and 0 is more or less consolidating price action. So there's plenty of confirmations and value adds within the ADX indicator. You can actually full screen our ADX indicator and be able to see this in a more concentrated environment. I usually just keep it up scaled at the bottom here so I can check whenever we're seeing signals from Selene on our chart. Watch for ADX breakout. I'm able to look straight down at the ADX and say, okay, ADX is under 25 here. If we start to tick up over 25, or if the trajectory, meaning the angle of the ADX, is starting to pick up like straight up 45 degrees or so, then we're looking at our momentum increasing. So this area down here, relatively low momentum, right? You can see that reflected within the price. And then we're seeing areas such as this or this area over here, which I can draw on the screen for you. So you can see the ADX right here or the ADX right here. You can see that is a steeper incline, and that's what we're looking for when we're looking for momentum swinging. So whenever we're seeing these signals, watch ADX for breakout. We're looking down here at our ADX, the bottom of the screen, and we're looking for us to be getting over this 25 level. 25 level, we start to see an increase in momentum. You can see it here, but you can really start to see it as we're picking up at a rapid rate of incline on our ADX, you can see how the price was moving without hesitation to the downside. So that's what it's showing us within the ADX. We also have a more in-depth ADX video on our YouTube channel. It's about 20 minutes long. The developer himself is actually going over and explaining ADX in more detail if you want that. So let's get back to Selene here. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Randy?
Yeah, I can throw in a little commentary
Sure
before we
thing.
switch to something else. You can pull ADX back up.
Okay.
So with ADX, essentially it measures your not only your momentum, but it measures your trend strength. Traditional ADX, and I'll just give a very quick summed up version of the longer 20-minute video that's more in depth. But traditional ADX, like CJ mentioned, it's not directional specific, which is why a lot of traders typically don't actually use it. Um, However, so combining not only the directional index lines, which is the two lines beneath ADX, you see, yeah, that you see there. So using those while looking at price action, we were actually able to kind of essentially interpret ADX um, and use it to determine the actual direction. So while it's normally omnidirectional, it doesn't actually tell you. In this particular case, it does. Um, so think of it this way. So the higher your ADX line gets, the stronger the trend strength is getting, and also the higher your volatility typically gets as well. So as a rule of thumb, and it depends on which setting you set it on, whether it's level, 1, 2. I don't really recommend 3 unless you're doing like really, really fast, like 1 or 3 minute scalps. Even 2 minute scalps is, more, or excuse me, even level 2 is more preferred for maybe 3 or 5 minute scalps. If you're doing 15 minutes or more, then you typically just stick with level 1, and it's really great. It's real well rounded for pretty much any time frame up to like a week, or a month. I don't know who actually trades on a month, but it works for any other time frame. So the higher ADX gets, the stronger your trend is actually getting. Um, Typically, what I do, and we may actually end up having it in future versions as well. So as of right now, you have that gray horizontal line that's drawn at the 15%. So as a rule of thumb, whenever it goes below that, you can expect price action to go sideways. And this is really great for kind of giving traders that extra confidence that if you didn't have this and you were just looking at candles, at the first pullback, you might paper hands out of the trade and you might, want to sell. Whereas if you're looking at ADX and you can see that the momentum is actually below that 15%, you can have a pretty relative confidence that it's not going to make any drastic moves underneath that level. Now, typically, like that watch for ADX breakout, typically what that does is it's a combination of a couple of things. So it combines price action with trend strength and momentum. So it looks at where ADX is, and keep in mind this is zero lagging ADX. So if you pull up a stock ADX indicator, it's not going to be quite as responsive, and you can even see the traditional there, which funny enough, that's actually not a straight traditional ADX indicator. That one is weighted a little bit, but you can tell it's a lot more smoothed out. You don't have the sharp peaks, the sharp lines. Um, and you are typically a couple candles behind if you go with a traditional ADX because it is a lagging indicator. It's important to remember that. However, with this one, we did modify it. We're doing some things behind the scene. If anyone's familiar with, calculating a zero lagging moving average, we're doing very similar things kind of behind the scenes. And we're taking it, that level 1, 2, and 3, we're taking it, 3 levels deep into really just catching those sharp little pivots. So anyway, long story short, typically whenever you're kind of riding underneath that 15%, if you see that watch ADX breakout, that's usually hitting on a usually like a doji candle. It's usually really tall wicks with a tiny little body, just a lot of indecision in terms of price action, and then combined with just completely sideways momentum. So typically, what you want to do when you see that that doji candle might be indicative of something getting ready to happen. And you want to keep an eye on ADX to see if it actually breaks up above that 15% and takes off. And whatever direction it usually takes off with, or whatever color it takes off with, that's the direction it's actually going to be. In this particular case, it just kind of touched the line, came back down. Nothing really exciting happened. And it really isn't until if you scroll pretty much right where the cursor was just now, where that red ADX momentum really it kind of blows through that 15% line, and that's when the actual price action starts moving. So yeah, so if y'all want more, more information about it, like CJ said, there's a much more in-depth video. I tend to be very long-winded with my explanations, so I'll turn it back over to CJ.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so all right, so we'll put the ADX kind of in a box. If we have any questions about it, we'll certainly circle back to them here in the live class. But what we're going to focus on now is how to set up Selene. And we'll crack right into it. So we'll go into the settings panel. You can go into the settings right through here. And one of the things that I'm looking at, because I typically trade on a 3-minute time frame, so I look to be a little more aggressive. So I like to use the aggressive version of Selene. Now, one of the new features here, signal sensitivity. Balanced signal sensitivity works very well for most situational traders, or most situational traders will encounter. If the long/short signals are appearing late on the particular chart or time frame you're looking at, first make sure your trading style is set to aggressive. So that in this case, that's why I'm switching to aggressive. Then set your signal sensitivity to one of the scalping modes, which I'm about to show you. While scalping and scalping fast can aid in capturing candle direction changes very quickly, they also greatly increase the chance of false positive long/short signals. Make sure you confirm your trade decisions with other trading strategies or indicators such as the ADX, hence why we covered it first. Ultimate support and resistance, which we will also touch on, consolidation detection, or RSI, which we can certainly cover. So I'll show you guys the scalping version of Selene. So we're going to have a lot more signals here with the scalping version. And then this is the scalping fast version. So we're very quick to look at these signals. And you can certainly leave it on balanced, right? And then for this situation specifically, we'll be able to look down here and trace back to our ADX and see how this might have been a false signal, as we see our momentum sharply decrease shortly after the signal. So we have our signal right here, ADX is topping out, and then shortly after we see our ADX spike down. So with that spiking down, we would have wanted to stay away from that signal, or at least waited for additional confirmation, which once we get a short signal here or a profit take, that is suggestion for us to get out of our long signal. And then on this short signal here, we're actually supposed to be out of our long signal entirely. Again, looking back at our ADX, we'll see our MACD flag. We'll also see our directional index crossing, and we'll see shortly after our short signal, ADX pick up significantly. So with that all being said, this would be a fantastic short signal to take. Fantastic short signal to take. And yeah, so that's how you stack confirmation with ADX and things of that nature. And then we'll also look at our scalping mode here. So again, we're seeing our long signal a little bit, or actually the same exact candle right there. We're also seeing long and short signals right here though. So we'll focus on these for a moment, and if you bear with me, I will get rid of these drawings. So the reason that we wouldn't have wanted to take these signals is you can see our ADX is very, very flat within this range. So we're getting our MACD confirmations, but our directional index is also having these small little iterations of crossing, but nothing is of great importance. We're not crossing over, resistance levels. We're not crossing over our ADX, spiking over that 25 level that we really like. All we have here is our MACD with some low confidence directional index crossovers. So again, with our ADX being so flat here, these are signals that we may want to stack more confirmation with prior to taking. This is exactly how we recommend that you guys look for confirmations just using our ADX indicator with Selene. So anything you'd like to add to that, Randy?
No, probably not. At some point, you don't have to do it now. But at some point, you could probably bring up the essentials indicator as well, that has everything all in one. Because typically, what I do, I'll usually throw essentials in there as well. And use RSI and a few other things, just as that extra layer of confirmation. I will say too, Essentials has a kind of somewhat unique version of the volume indicator in it. It has volume. It's volume plus kind of volume flow, but we're doing a little bit of a strategic difference of volume flow instead of just traditional volume flow. There's also a modification on the candles itself. Some candles you'll see are actually two-toned, meaning if you compare it to, you can see some of those, they're like red candles with like green caps on them, for example. Those are typically whenever you have, okay, so for example, if you have a red, so for example, if you had a decent sized red candle, however, if you had a really strong bottom green, or really large bottom wick, even though it was a red candle, which is typically a bearish candle, it's actually a very weak bearish candle, and there's actually a lot of countering from bull. Perfect. That's a perfect example right there. So what we do, and there's also ascending in there too, that it'll put a little dot above certain volume candles, and essentially that's just looking for a wick size factor. So if the wick size is a factor of 2 larger than the body, you can actually highlight that, and you can also change that to whatever you want. If you want to see more of those, you can knock it down to like 1.5. If you want to only pick out those ones that are just really giant wicks, real indecisive volume candles, then you could increase it if you wanted to. So, but yeah, I usually we may end up redoing the moving averages. I usually take that off for now. The Bollinger Bands are actually a very interesting addition. So traditionally with Bollinger Bands, obviously they go on your actual chart, and they overlay your actual candles. However, if any of you have actually searched through the indicators within TradingView, they have the free, the included Bollinger Bands %B as well as the actual width. Now, those traditionally obviously they're not overlaid on top of the chart. And let me see, let's do something really quick. Let's apply width. So yeah, so go to under Bollinger Bands, change the apply width to false really quick. So, and you can see the name of the Bollinger Bands, it went from Bollinger Bands to Bollinger Bands width. And yeah, so hover over that, you can just kind of, y'all can read that. But so essentially, Bollinger Bands by default traditionally is actually a volatility indicator. However, the width portion of Bollinger Bands, in other words, the intensity that they're either expanding or contracting, that's actually a method of measuring volatility. However, if you remove that width away from this, you're losing that volatility aspect of Bollinger Bands. So if you go back in and you reapply it, it's essentially a disconnected version of, like a scaled disconnected version of Bollinger Bands. And the actual line, whenever it touches or crosses over those surrounding lines, those are actually when the candles would actually be crossing over a traditional Bollinger Bands if you had it overlaid on the chart. Something else that we that was added that I found to be really just useful. Um, so there's also two settings you can do, and I won't bore y'all with this. We can do another video on this if needed. But so that red bar that you're seeing there on that Bollinger Band area, that's actually a confirmation of a downtrend. And that's looking at a couple different factors combined. It's looking at whether or not it was previously extended in breaking above that upper band, and it's also looking at whether it's it's like a triple exponential double smooth moving average combined. But essentially, it's looking to see if that trend has reversed following that breakout of the upper line. And if both of those conditions are true, then it actually throws a red bar or a signal that it's just an extra confirmation that the um, trend direction is reversing, if you will, which is kind of like a unique way of looking at it, because obviously with traditional Bollinger Bands, you don't really get that. So, and then that stacked with RSI and volume flow and everything else, it just makes a really great, powerful set of confirmations that you can be using on top of ADX and Selene by itself. It's just a great combination. This is usually how I trade, whether I'm scalping or swing trading.
Yeah, so with the essentials, you can go into more focus mode. So within, right when you throw it up, you'll see at the top right class. So we have volume, volatility, momentum, and trend. So the classes of indicators that are within the essentials. So we actually have 10 different indicators in here, and it's important to note that you don't want to be using multiple indicators within the same class. So you'd like to keep just one indicator. So we'll actually go through what all is in the essentials. So you have volume flow plus OBV, which we're seeing right there at the top. And then that's for...
Go ahead and just turn them all on if you want, just to show.
Oh, sure thing. Yeah. We also have the Bollinger Band, so this is our volatility indicator. We also have the VIX, which is, as you guys should know, that's a Vanguard index measuring volatility. We have our momentum indicators, which include the Chaikin money flow, which we can check on as well, the stochastic, as well as the RSI. So we have 3 different indicators within the momentum indicators. Specifically, in the trend indicators, we have the parabolic SAR, as well as 5 different moving averages. So we'll check all of those on. And you'll see at the top here how it's throwing that you have three momentum indicators on the chart. It's giving you the little caution sign right there. We're also seeing a display readout in the bottom right for our RSI, stochastic, Chaikin money flow, and every other indicator we have for bearish or bullish. All of these are bullish, so this is what we would call green across the board. VIX is a neutral rating. VIX is also closed right now because it's 8 p.m. But this is the full extent for the essentials indicator. And you guys, again, it's free. You guys can throw it on. Typically, I just trade like this, just looking at the basic chart. And if I need to pull up either essentials or ADX, I just double click on my chart. I pull it up. I can go into the more focus mode and immediately know all of these indicators, what is bullish, what is bearish. And I'm able to get that insight at the snap of a finger without having to individually add all of these. This is all just within one indicator, so huge value add there, because TradingView, free TradingView only limits you to only having 3 indicators up. So with Selene's 1, Essentials is 2. Then if you wanted like ADX or maybe the USR, that would be 3 right there. So we'll close Essentials out, and we'll take the replay feature off, throw Selene back on. And what we'll go into next is going to be the USR. So actually I will hide Selene again, and we'll go into the USR. Let me clear this off really quickly. And we will go back to invite only, and we will go to the USR right here at the bottom. So this is our ultimate support and resistance indicator. It draws support and resistance zones dynamically, trend lines dynamically. It'll also identify pivots for you, again, dynamically. So we'll go right into the settings here. It also has 5 different moving averages, as well as VWAP and VWAP bands. And you also have the ability to insert your own support and resistance list. Some of you guys are familiar with Zero and Shimmy here in the Trading Collective. Most of the time, Zero will actually post his own levels, so his own support and resistance levels. So you can copy and paste those right in here. But typically, the way I have my USR set up, so I'm showing all of our pivots. So you can see higher high, lower high, higher low. Immediately, we can also go into our settings here and adjust our extend closest pivot right here. We can show that. We also have the ability to throw on incremental support and resistance lines and iterations of 50. You can adjust this up or down. We'll leave it on 50 and it'll show those levels. You can extend it right a little bit further. You can extend it left a little bit further. And then the way that I typically trade is I actually have these off, and I have a few different moving averages checked. So I'll throw my 9, I'll throw my 21, I'll throw our 200, and I also like to be able to see VWAP. So a lot of different levels, a lot of different moving averages, but it makes a little bit more sense, and it's a little bit easier to represent once we throw on our Selene. So you can see this bottom level that's representing our trend cloud is also our 200 EMA. So that's being based out very nicely for you, so you almost don't even need a 200 EMA on your screen when you have Selene up. But we're able to see our shorter time frame, 9 and 21. There's a lot of different strategies just using moving averages. So what I like to do personally is I like to have confirmation of a 9 and 21 cross with a Selene short signal prior to taking a short or long signal. You can also stack confirmations with the ADX, similar to what we had done before. And then I'll use either VWAP or our 200 EMA as my price targets. So right here, we have a short signal. We have our confirmation right here, 9 and 21 crossing, which is going to be a little bit slower than if you had taken the actual signal itself with a 9 EMA break and the MACD confirmation from the ADX. But we can use our VWAP as a target point, and once we're trending below our VWAP, we can enact a trailing stop loss. And if we start crossing over our 21 at any point, we should be trailed out of our position, or down here when we're getting our long signal, we know that we should be getting out of our short that we had taken up here. So at any point, you could take profit on the way down from this short signal. If you were an option trader, you'd be buying puts. If you were trading stocks, you'd be short. And at any point, you could be taking profit, whether it's at VWAP or using a trailing stop. But by the time you're getting a long signal down here, you should be exiting that trade. You don't have to wait for the signals. I like taking profit way before we get the next long or short signal. But by the time we're getting a long signal, you can see if we had actually exited our short and went long at this point, same exact thing. We can use our VWAP as our target here. So let me clear off our drawings really quickly. We can use our VWAP as our target. From our long signal down here, we could have waited for either a break over the 9 EMA or our 21 EMA, or the cross of the 9 and the 21 EMA right here. Target being VWAP. We also have other levels within here that we can be using to exit the trade, or again, a trailing stop loss. So that is the way that I like to use USR. USR is actually one of my favorite additions to the SeleneAlgo suite. Thing's badass. Absolutely love it. Calculate.
It's
I'll show
also
you guys the VWAP bands really quickly as well.
oh
So,
yeah,
so
yeah.
here's our VWAP bands.
It's also worth noting in the SeleneAlgo channel in the newer news analyst channels. So pretty much as news drops live, we are on the pretty much any stock that's mentioned within any news article on the fly. We're doing full analysis on it. If enough data is available, we're actually doing calculating the intrinsic value of a stock as well. That way, you can identify very quickly if it's undervalued. And a great thing about it that really plays into USR is that we're also, when available, um, grabbing and auto generating that list of support and resistance levels. And you can literally grab it right out of that Discord message and paste it right into USR, and it'll auto populate all of your support and resistance levels really fast. Worth noting.
I'll show you guys what that looks like really quickly, actually. So we'll go back here, go live. You guys can see actually what he's talking about. So SpaceX to connect U.S. cell phones to Starlink satellites and T-Mobile deal. So Space Mobile is the company that this article is primarily about. ASTS right here is the ticker. It's giving us immediately our previous close, last close 52-week range. When that was last updated, it's also giving us a quick snapshot of the company health. Analyst rating currently overweight. ROE, EPS, margin, liquidity ratio for current and quick ratio. Beta, so beta is our volatility measure. Stocks that are under 1 beta or a beta of 1 are less volatile. Stocks that are over 1 beta of 1 are more volatile. It does a quick rundown for a risk assessment. It's also giving you the last 3 years for this security in particular. It does typically 4 or 5 years of history for net income and EPS, whether or not it's diluted. It shows the options contract, which is the highest open interest. So in the money call right here is $10 strike. In the money put right here, $12.50 put. It's giving you a represented bid and ask amount. And it's also giving you the USR levels that Randy was talking about, which you can immediately copy and paste. So we can just take that and copy and paste it into our USR. It's giving us rally and pullback levels, long target 1 and 2, as well as short target 1 and 2, and a linked article that you can use for reference to go read this. So yeah, those are the features that are within it. And honestly, it's happening immediately. So this happened. This article came out 20 minutes ago, and we're already looking at this data. We can scroll back. We can actually look in here. Like, let's look. Here, I'll move this over. Let's look at Tesla, and we can jump to our most recent Tesla article right here. So we're looking at Tesla and immediately getting our company health, risk assessment as well, history, options, USR levels for it. Now they are new since Tesla has split. We're already grabbing those for you. And yeah, so this is a huge tool. Make sure you guys are using it. If you guys have SeleneAlgo, you guys are already invited and should be in the SeleneAlgo server. There's a lot of support and resources available within here. This is just some of the resources that are included. We also have premium news channels and other alert channels within here as well. So make sure you guys are checking this out if you are new, and if you have been with us for a while. Make sure you guys are using those resources because they're huge. So anything you'd like to add to that, Randy?
No, I think you got it.
Beautiful. Awesome. So we can go over a few other indicators here really quickly. So what I'll do is I'll show our candle insight. I want to feature that a little bit. So invite only, candle insight. Now you're seeing that I'm on a 3-minute chart here. Once we pull up our candle insight, you're going to see this mess right here, but it's okay. We're going to go into here. We're actually going to adjust our candle count down to whatever you'd like. I typically look at 5 different candles for a 15-minute time frame. 5 different candles for 15-minute time frame. We'll actually throw on our regular trading hours really quickly. That way it's functioning properly. And what we can do is we can also turn off our dashboard. We can push it further out. I'll just disable it for the sake of visibility for Candle Insight really quickly. So what is this? What is this? So Candle Insight is actually, in the way that we have it adjusted, so Candle Insight as a whole will show you different time frame candles. So we'll actually be able to see, for this I have the 15-minute time frame pulled up. I'm looking at the last hour or so's worth of candles. So the last hour of candles here, plus a little bit extra. So we can actually adjust that down and it'll show us 4 plus our current. What I like to look at and what I like to use this for is being able to see, okay, if we're green on our 3-minute, are we green on our 15-minute candle, whether it's current. We can also see the trend of the 15-minute candles. So what does this really help us do? This helps us have a additional layer or level of confirmation. So the higher the time frame, the higher the conviction is for a trade. Always technical analysis in particular is more effective at higher time frames. Why is that? Well, because we're compiling a lot of that minute microeconomic data, and we're actually displaying it on a higher, smoother time frame. So we're actively looking at a 3-minute, but we're able to, with the Candle Insight, be aware of what our 15-minute chart looks like. So this is a huge, huge, huge feature. I was super, super happy when we finally released it. And again, you can be looking at a 15-minute. You can be changing this to an hour, to a week, to a month. Super powerful tool. Anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, actually, real quick, just forward to keep the chart clean so everyone can see it. Turn off Selene and USR. I'll show something else with Candle Insight too. So right now we're on the 3-minute. Go ahead and change over to a much higher time. Go to like 1 hour, for example. Perfect. All right. All right. So within Candle Insight, now change that to like 5 minutes, and then bump up your candle count. You can just throw it to anything. Doesn't really matter. It's fine. So Candle Insight actually does 2 things. You gotta actually. Oh, we're in crap. We're in regular trading hours, so nothing's really happening. Go to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's running. Sweet. All right. Give that a second. All right, we're in 1 hour time frame. Perfect. All right. Yeah, it just takes a second to load because it has to look back at the data. So it does 2 things. So it's interesting. People actually use this for a different purpose than I originally designed it. But so my thing was whenever I typically scalp trade, and I'm always switching back and forth between 5-minute, 3-minute, 1 minute, and back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes I would hit like just stay on the 15-minute if I was trying to stay in a position for most of the day or something, or at least half a day or something. But I didn't like continuously changing time frames over and over again. And I didn't like stacking multiple candle charts within my screen as well, just because it just takes up a lot more real estate. So what I wanted to do is if I'm looking at a higher time frame, like for example, 1 hour here, I can look at this 1 hour candle by itself and I can see that there's a little bit bigger bottom wick than the top, but it's still a pretty decent sized candle. There's a little bit of indecision on the top and the bottom there. But overall, it's not that bad. So if I wanted to get insight into what's happening inside that candle, like when that candle started at I can't tell the text is kind of at 2000 hours, when that candle started, what's the what are the 5 minute candles do? What have they been doing since that candle started? So I can look into that candle and actually see what's happening. What's basically making up that candle's behavior. So in summary, if you pick a time frame in Candle Insight that's smaller than your current chart, you'll see within the last candle. If you pick one that's larger than your chart, then you can just get a summary of whatever candles you want, whether it's like 15-minute, hour, a week, et cetera, et cetera. It's also worth noting too, you can hover over those times above those candles. I kind of staggered them up and down. That way they're not completely running into each other. If you zoom out a little bit, they will run into each other. So you can actually adjust not only the size of those and make them smaller within the settings. Right now it's just normal size. Go down to you can make them small, make them really small. Um, if you were to give it a second to load back all your other candles. Um, but you can also hover over those candles as well, and you'll see a label that will pop up to make it a little bit bigger if you can't quite see it. And when you're using the larger time frames, it'll actually show the date with the actual time as well. Um, so yeah, that's Candle Insight in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you for that. So if you guys have any questions as far as what we've covered, so we've covered Selene itself, we've covered ADX, we've covered our essentials indicator, we've covered our USR, and we've covered our candle insight. If there are any questions that you guys have about what we've covered, we can certainly do another class where we're going even more in depth into some of the makeup origin and what we're trying to display as far as and show you guys within these indicators and where you can pull out even more value. We may be having another class if it's requested, where we can also go in depth on some of the other indicators within the suite. There are 10 different indicators within the suite, so there's plenty to look at. Yeah.
So.
But these are some of our main indicators that we're seeing used the absolute most. Some of the stuff we haven't even gotten to talk about today, which we can certainly get into at a later date, would be our opening bell pattern analysis, which I can show you guys really quickly. So we'll actually take this USR and Selene off. We'll throw in our volume. We'll go to Tesla on a 5-minute time frame. We'll go to, actually we'll leave it as extended hours on. And we'll go to our opening bell pattern analysis just to show you guys this really quickly. You're like, whoa, what is this? Okay, well, actually, this is a breakdown, and this is historical data that's populating actually the last 26 data sets that we have for days. Tesla on a 5-minute, the percentage for the first candle to be red or green is right here. Candle 2, 3, and 4. The sequence of events for all the first 4 candles to be red, we have probabilities down here. We have overall 7.7% chance. So if the first 3 candles are red, then the likelihood of the 4th candle being red is a 40% chance. So we are able to follow that on the green side or the red side. Just something to keep in mind. So there's by default on a 5-minute time frame for Tesla, based upon a sample size of 26, Tesla has a 53.9% chance or probability of opening with a initial red candle. With that being said, second candle being also red, 64% chance. So we may not be paying attention to our first candle, but once we're getting that first candle, we're immediately looking, okay, what is our likelihood of continuing in this direction? Well, we're getting a 35% chance for the next candle to also be red. So this is a sequence that we would pay very close attention to. First candle being red, second candle 64.3 or 65% chance of it also being red. So we might want to scalp trade this next candle. And this is just one of the indicators that we're looking at here. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah. So the original idea of why this was created, so say for example, scenario that someone or someone on some Discord group that you're on is talking about some stock that you've never traded, you've never really heard of, you're not familiar with the company, you don't know anything about them. But say you're minutes from opening bell, and you're making a decision whether or not you want to listen to maybe someone else who's about to trade it, or so in other words, you don't have time personally to go through and really familiarize yourself with the behaviors and patterns that that stock might actually have. And stocks essentially they do typically follow the same patterns because you generally have the same people trading those stocks. People like what they like. They trade what they trade, and different stocks kind of develop patterns of their own. A lot of people once they get good at scalping or trading something, they're going to stick to that one stock forever because they're really familiar with what that stock does. Now, going back to that scenario, if you were jumping into and you knew nothing about Tesla or any other stock for that matter, and you wanted to see what it actually usually does starting at a certain time frame. Now we do have it set at 9:30 for start because it is opening bell, and that typically is the most useful to kind of see what usually happens first thing in the morning. If you start with a couple of really strong bearish candles, maybe after the third bearish candle, you almost always have a bullish candle that counters it. So those are things that you want to know if you're going to jump into a stock that you know nothing about. And that's essentially what this does. It kind of gives you a really quick, informative glance at the behaviors, the statistical analysis of the past behavior of that stock. And then based on that, you can make a reasonably educated guess on what it's most likely going to do today. Now, of course, past performance isn't indicative of future performance. However, stocks typically react the same day to day with only relative outliers. So anyway, but yeah, that's the summed up version and the purpose behind this info.
Yeah, so there's plenty that we could get into, and we could literally spend hours here in the class. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's class. I think we covered a lot of the main indicators within the suite. Hopefully you guys have the information you need to be able to take your next steps when using Selene, start taking signals with Selene. If you guys have any questions, we'll leave the floor open for the next few minutes prior to us wrapping up. So any questions about Selene, indicators, suite as a whole, whether it's a specific indicator that we covered or didn't cover, please ask them now. I'll be monitoring both Discord and the YouTube stream. So JL on YouTube asks, any good setup for option day trading, like for Amazon, Tesla, SQ, NVIDIA, etc.? So yeah, for those types of stocks, which I trade all those stocks all the time, my favorite settings are going to be Selene. Here, I'll just pull them up for you really quickly. So this is exactly what I have. So I'll pull up my USR and I'll add Selene here. We'll go into our settings. We'll set all of this up really quickly. So we'll check this. We'll go to our aggressive. We'll go to scalping. And then we will disable the risk mitigation. That's for me in particular. And then we'll also throw our whale hunter on. And then we will go into our settings here for the USR. You'll see me flip on our moving averages, extend our closest pivot, as well as show higher high, lower low. As well, you can also adjust your pivot / zone sensitivities. This is something I encourage you guys to play around with because this can be a huge eye opener for how Selene is working and as well as how it's working in relation to the security itself. This can vary from security to security. Some securities will like higher trend sensitivities or pivot sensitivities, and some won't. So what you're looking to see is false positives, a clutter of signals. Those are things you would adjust or mitigate here within these drop downs. But I encourage you guys to play around with these to the fullest extent. And so this is basically how I have the USR, not basically, this is how I have the USR and Selene set up for myself. I'd like to trade specifically on a 3-minute time frame when I am day trading, we'll actually take a replay back here, and we'll just see Tesla as it forms this bull flag in a somewhat decent speed here. So we'll be watching the USR change and adjust. What I'm seeing here is we're sub 200 EMA. We already had a short signal from pre-market, so we were already looking to be short. We see our long using the price target for getting out of this long, possibly at a pivot level, which we have right here, higher low identified, so we can see right here is a price target. Or if we wanted to, we could be using our VWAP or 200 EMA. Also, we see our VWAP in 200 EMA, which is not actually our 200 EMA. This would be our 21 EMA. VWAP in 21 EMA crossing, and we start to get another short signal, so we're wanting to go short again. And this is basically how it works. This is basically how it works in real time. So you're seeing us breaking low of day here.
Since you're on a low time frame, you can actually increase the sensitivity of USR too.
You can, yes. So you can
if
actually...
I'm on 5, 3, or 1 minute, I'll usually put them on high.
There we go. And there it is on high. This is how it works, guys. So that is that's kind of my favorite setups for both Tesla, or all of them that you had listed, JL, Tesla, Amazon, SQ, NVIDIA. These are big blue chip names, beta over 1, so high volatility, large companies with good options liquidity, high open interest, good volume, plenty of liquidity, meaning we can get in and out of these positions very easily. Those are some of my favorite tickers that you listed there, JL. So again, Tesla, Amazon, SQ, NVIDIA. If we could also add to that list, we'd add Apple as well, possibly even Microsoft, and the Qs for that are some of my favorite tickers to trade. My all-time favorite is going to be SPY or SPX. SPY is what I typically trade while looking at a futures chart. But let's take some more questions here. Selene, I don't even know you because I just learned way too much about you, says Meta over in the live stream chat. That is too funny. So this video will be saved and archived if you guys need to go back, refer to certain points. I'll actually go through and timestamp the video for different sections, whether that's Selene, ADX, Candle Insight, USR. All of those will be timestamped as well, so you guys can refer back to that. We have plenty of information for getting set up as far as actual written format and PDF sort of filing, so we can send those to you guys. They're available on SeleneAlgo.com as well if you'd like to reference that. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you guys have any more questions. You can hop into the live stream if it's throughout the day. If not, you can always hop into the SeleneAlgo Discord, browse through the channels. Again, I highly recommend you guys use that SeleneAlgo Discord. There's so many features in there that you guys get. It's incredible. So we'll actually have a totally separate video down the road on all of the features within the SeleneAlgo Discord. Again, use and abuse all of this that we've given to you, all of the indicators, all the settings within the indicators. You guys will learn so much. Here at the Trading Collective, we strive to teach and show sustainable trading methods. We try to be as transparent as possible. The idea and the premise of SeleneAlgo even being created is to assist in trading. It's to be another tool in the tool belt. So not just creating an algorithm that you guys rely on. It's actually showing you exactly why. Look at the dashboard here, for instance, MACD, RSI, 9 EMA, VWAP, the bull bear ratio, and this is only about 70% of the dashboard. You can actually display the full dashboard and see other things such as the SMA 50, the SMA 200, 1000. All of these observations, bears overturned sideways bullish momentum. This is what's happening right at this instance at 11:42 this morning on Tesla. We're able to go back and replay in the past and actually see what settings work best for us in our trading styles. Whether you have a very lax swing trading style, You might want to use Selene on a trend finder setting on a higher time frame. If you're a day trader and you like to hang out in live trading with us or utilize some of the alerts that we put out, you might want to be using an aggressive trading style on a lower time frame. So it's all entirely up to you guys how you want to create and adjust, whether it's Selene or the USR or one of the other indicators within the suite. It's all personal preference. We do have optimizations. For me, I am biased on my settings for Selene, right? But Randy, he has his settings, right? Shimmy, Zero, they have their different settings. You will find your own settings. Maybe it's one of the other traders within our group, or maybe it's your own settings that you figured out work best for you, your trading style, your bandwidth, your capacity. Maybe you can't check your phone all the time or sit in front of the screen all day. So thanks to the Selene team, we actually have right here, you can get an alert on your phone every time there's a long or short signal, whether it's a 3-minute or 15-minute time frame. You can get it right as the bar is showing the signal, or if it's closing with that signal in. That's what I'd recommend. It shows you that signal, actually displays it via however you'd like for it to on TradingView, whether it's dinging your phone via SMS, sending you an email, or pinging your TradingView screen as you're looking at it. So anyways, guys, thank you all so very much for showing up for today's class. Those of you who are here for the live session, if you guys, again, have any questions, feel free to reach out and we will take care of it. And I'll see you guys again in the next class. Be sure, if you haven't, smash a like button there on YouTube. It helps the YouTube algorithm a lot. And again, thank you all so much. Randy, anything you'd like to add?
No, I think you wrapped it up perfectly. It was a great video, man. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow morning at the Open. Be in here for live trading with Shimmy. Later, everybody.